Hi, this is Shannon with Florabella Collection. Today I'll be showing you how I processed this floral, and we'll be starting with this straight out of the camera shot, and I'll take you all the way through until we achieve this result. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to reduce that. I'm going to go to my camera file, and we'll be working with this image here. Drag that in. Okay, this is what it looks like straight out of the camera. My setup here is white construction paper on the bottom. I have a stand in the back. You can use a chair, a box, anything. And I put, actually have a yellow piece of paper in the back from something I was shooting earlier. I wanted something in a neutral tone, so I went into the house and grabbed this cardboard out of a pizza box and cut off the bottom so it was straight, and that's my background. Okay, so you can pretty much use anything, tablecloths, cutting boards, whatever. Alright, so let's get started. The first thing I always do is the crop. Okay, the crop is really important, especially in floral images, but cropping can make or break an image. So I'm going to go to my crop tool, and I usually try to start with a horizontal image, not necessarily a square, but a rectangle. So I start with 14 inches by 10 inches at 300 pixels, and I'm going to start here. Now, this composition is terrible. We want, the rule of thirds to keep that in mind, and I like negative space in most of my images, as you can probably tell. So I'm going to start here and just crop it over like that. And that looks perfect to me, maybe a little bit more. I want to cut off that top flower because my emphasis is here, really. All right. I'm not going to worry that this background is cut off over here. That's not a problem. I'm going to show you how we're going to fix that. So I'm going to click OK. And the first thing we'll do is extend this background. And I know photographers that shoot newborns do this a lot. I do it as well in my florals. So here we'll go up to the rectangular marquee selection tool. We're going to come as close to this flower as we possibly can. Here we go. And you're just going to make a little selection. Now click Control T, or you can go to Edit and Transform, but I like Control T on my PC here, and that'll give you little things you can grab onto here, and I'm just going to pull it over. I'm going to stretch that selection. Okay, select and deselect. And that looks good to me. Now we're ready to process this image. Looking at it though, I'm going to see, I already know that I like it square better. So you can do it that way, or you can start with 10 by 10, which is the dimensions I have here, and crop it like that. And I actually really like that better. I'm going to move over with my arrow key just a tad and click OK. Perfect. Alright, so we can go ahead and move on to textures, but I actually am going to run Trixie from Florabella Lux 2 Actions on this image because I like the rosy kind of coral tones you can get from using this action. Now that is going to be too light before, after. The image was very light to start with. I'm going to start at the bottom. I'm going to click off the soft center light layer, the light and contrast layer, this contrast layer. I don't want a vignette, so I'm going to take the vignette off. And here we have a layer called Lighten. That really lightens it up. I'm going to pull that down as well. I'm going to keep it just about there. So we have before and after. Kind of gives an overall rosy tone to the image. I like that. So I am going to go up here to my history palette and just make a snapshot of that real quick. So that way we can go back to that if we want. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and flatten this. Alright, now I'm going to start with my textures. I'm going to go down here to Florabella Set 3. And for this image, I'm going to use, a lot of textures would work in this image, but I'm going to use this Twilight. I like it because it kind of gives a sugar-coated kind of a look to your image. Let's drag it down here. Now in CS5, if I just drag it on, it goes right on top of my photo. Okay? But let me show you, if you don't have CS5 and yours doesn't work like that, what you can do is you drag it in and it'll be on a different tab. See these tabs? What I do is I go up to the tab, I drag the tab down, make sure I'm on my move tool, and I can drag the background, I can drag it right on here like this. Okay? Now it's not on there correctly, so again, Control T or Edit Transform, and you can just make it fit right on. Okay? It doesn't matter with these textures. You don't have to necessarily keep the proportions correctly. You can stretch them around and they still work pretty well. So now I have the texture, but where's my image? That's because I need to change the blending mode in my layers palette. See, it says normal. I need to change it to something like screen or overlay or soft light or multiply. And in future videos, I'll go through the blending modes and explain more what they do. For these purposes, let's try my old favorite, soft light. And that looks pretty. It's a little heavy. Let me zoom in so we can see a little bit better here. It's a little heavy right there. So I usually like it around 50 or 60%. That looks good to me. And I'm just going to reduce that again so I can see it. It's a little dark though, the image to me. I like my images a little lighter. So I'm going to go down here and duplicate the background layer. And I'm going to change that blending mode to screen. Ooh. And I'm going to take the opacity down and just ease my way up until I think it looks pretty. And that looks good to me. Now, most of the time working with portraits and most of the time working with florals, I do remove the texture from part of the image. In this image, I'm not going to do that, but I will show you in future tutorials how to do that. In this image, I think it looks pretty as is. Maybe this flower here is a little bit too light. So I'm going to create a layer mask, and you do that by clicking on, make sure you can see that here, this little rectangle with the circle in it. It says add layer mask. I'm going to add a layer mask. It's white. I'm going to make sure my foreground color down here is black. It is. I'm going to click my brush tool, make sure that I have an airbrush, a soft round airbrush. I have a lot of brushes in here, but here's one. And I'm going to use my right bracket key to make my brush size larger. I'm going to take my opacity down to about 25, well, around 28%. Doesn't really matter as long as it's low. I'm going to paint black on this white layer mask so that I can conceal. This is going to darken up and give more saturation. You can see here the black is being painted on the white, and this flower is getting a little darker. I'm going to run it down here too a little bit. It's a little bit too bright, and I want my mason jar to show up. Okay, I think that looks good. Okay, so it lightens up the rest of the image, but it keeps my flower and my lighter areas down here the same. Alright, so there we have it. There is the image. Let me show you before and after. Okay, so Florabella Textures and Actions can be found at florabellacollection.com. Thanks for watching.